The night of our annual corporate gala was supposed to be the highlight of my career. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above a sea of tailored suits and designer gowns. Champagne glasses clinked softly as laughter blended with the smooth rhythm of the live band. For years, I had poured my energy, loyalty, and belief into the company. That evening, I walked into the ballroom thinking I was finally about to step into the future I had worked so hard for. I had started at the company when it was nothing more than a small office with mismatched chairs and ambitious dreams. I worked late nights, skipped holidays, and missed family gatherings. My colleagues used to joke that I practically lived at my desk. But I didn't mind. I believed in the vision. I believed in the leadership. And more than anything, I believed in the partnership I had built with Daniel, the CEO. Daniel and I had grown the company side by side. While he was the charismatic face in front of investors, I was the strategist behind the scenes. I built systems, negotiated contracts, and saved deals that were falling apart. When clients praised our growth, Daniel would smile and say, "It's a team effort." I trusted that meant me too. That night, rumors were already swirling that a major announcement would be made. I had been told privately that I was being considered for Chief Operating Officer. It wasn't just a promotion, it was recognition, validation, proof that the sacrifices had meant something. As I stood near the stage, adjusting my tie, Daniel tapped his glass to call for attention. The room slowly quieted. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear the opening lines of his speech. He talked about growth, resilience, teamwork. He mentioned the early struggles and how far we had come. Then his tone shifted. "There is someone," he said, smiling toward the crowd, "who has been instrumental in taking us to the next level." My pulse raced. A few colleagues turned to look at me knowingly. I felt my cheeks warm. And that's why I am proud to announce our new Chief Operating Officer, Mark Henderson. The applause erupted like a thunderclap. But it wasn't for me. Mark, the same Mark one had trained 2 years ago. The same Mark who often came to me for advice before major meetings. My mind went blank. I felt as though the air had been sucked out of the room. Mark walked confidently to the stage. Daniel embraced him like a brother. Cameras flashed. I stood frozen, clapping slowly, mechanically, while my world cracked beneath my polished shoes. The betrayal wasn't just about the title. It was about the months of conversations where Daniel had assured me, "You're next." It was about the confidential strategies I had shared with Mark, trusting him as a colleague and friend. It was about loyalty that had clearly not been reciprocated. Later that evening, as the music grew louder and the dancing began, I found myself standing alone on the balcony overlooking the city lights. The skyline shimmered beautifully, indifferent to my humiliation. I replayed every moment in my mind, searching for clues I had missed. That's when I overheard them. Daniel and Mark were just inside the doorway, their voices low but sharp enough to cut through the night air. "We had to do it this way," Daniel said. "He's too rigid. Investors like Mark. He's more flexible." Flexible. I knew what that meant. It meant willing to bend numbers, to promise more than we could deliver, to prioritize image over integrity. My stomach tightened. The promotion hadn't just been taken from me. My principles had been deemed inconvenient. I left the party without saying goodbye. The following weeks were unbearable. Mark moved into the corner office I had helped design. Meetings I used to lead were reassigned. My access to certain financial reports was quietly restricted. It was a slow, calculated erasure. Colleagues avoided eye contact. Some sent sympathetic messages late at night, but no one dared to speak openly. The message was clear: stay in line or step aside. One evening, as I sat alone in my apartment staring at unfinished takeout, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Elena, one of the senior analysts. "Can we talk? It's important." We met at a small coffee shop far from the corporate district. Elena looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder before speaking. "They're manipulating projections," she whispered. "Mark pushed us to inflate next quarter's revenue forecast." I refused. Now I'm being sidelined. My heart sank. I wasn't crazy. My instincts had been right. Over the next few days, 2 more colleagues reached out. Quietly, carefully, each had a similar story. Pressure to compromise standards, to cut ethical corners, to prioritize stock price over transparency. What had started as betrayal was becoming clarity. We began meeting discreetly, not to gossip, not to plot revenge, but to talk about values. About the kind of company we had originally believed in building. We realized that many of us had joined for the same reason: integrity. One night, after hours of discussion, Elena looked at me and said, "Why don't we start our own firm?" The idea felt reckless, impossible, and yet, liberating. I had spent years building something for someone else. What if I built something aligned with who we truly were? Within 3 months, I resigned. It wasn't dramatic, no angry speeches, just a simple letter thanking the company for the opportunity and wishing them success. Daniel barely looked up when I handed it in. Mark offered a tight smile and said, "Best of luck." Luck had nothing to do with what was coming next. 5 of us left within weeks. We pooled our savings. We worked from Alina's dining table, laptops balanced between coffee mugs and stacks of notebooks. There were no chandeliers, no champagne, just determination. The early days were brutal. We pitched to clients who barely remembered our names. We faced rejection after rejection. At times, I wondered if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. But something was different. When we stayed late, it was because we believed in the mission, not because we were afraid of losing favor. When we disagreed, it was honest and respectful. When one of us struggled, the other stepped in without hesitation. We weren't just colleagues. We were becoming a family. Our breakthrough came unexpectedly. A mid-sized company approached us after hearing about our emphasis on transparent reporting. They had been burned by inflated projections in the past and wanted honesty over hype. We delivered. Slowly, referrals followed. Our reputation grew, not for flashy promises, but for reliability. Within 2 years, we had a modest but steady portfolio of clients who trusted us deeply. Then, almost inevitably, news broke. An investigation had been launched into my former company for financial misrepresentation. Stock prices plummeted. Investors panicked. Headlines that once praised explosive growth now questioned sustainability. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt sad, because beneath the scandal were employees who had believed, as I once had. People who would now face uncertainty. One afternoon, as I was reviewing reports in our new office, nothing extravagant, but warm and filled with natural light, there was a knock at the door. It was Daniel. He looked older, tired. "We made mistakes," he admitted quietly. "I made mistakes." He didn't ask for his old partnership back. He didn't offer excuses. He simply said, "You were right about integrity." After he left, I sat in silence for a long time. The corporate party that had shattered my expectations had also stripped away illusions. It forced me to confront what success truly meant. Success wasn't a title announced under sparkling chandeliers. It wasn't applause from people who would disappear when things went wrong. Success was building something that didn't require me to betray myself. A few months later, we hosted our own modest celebration to mark our 3rd anniversary. There were no crystal glasses, just paper cups and homemade food. We laughed about our early struggles. We toasted to resilience. As I looked around the room at Elena and the others, now partners in every sense of the word, I realized something profound. I had lost a position, but I had gained trust. I had lost prestige, but I had gained purpose. And most importantly, I had gained a family, not defined by blood, but by shared values, mutual respect, and unwavering support. Betrayal at the corporate party had destroyed the future I thought I wanted. But it gave me the life I actually needed. And if I had to stand in that ballroom again, hearing Daniel announce someone else's name while the crowd applauded, I would endure it all over again. Because sometimes the worst night of your life is simply the doorway to something better than you ever imagined.